A group of heroes is headed into the dark forest on a mission to liberate their home. They all wield powerful weapons known as regalia, weapons that grant them power far greater than what any human is capable of, so they are fully prepared to defeat the dark beasts in the forest. However, the second they arrive, their driver gets yeeted into oblivion by one of the dark beasts. Everyone else springs into action, and their leader, Stefan, orders everyone to get in formation as they make a charge straight into the dark beast den. The cutlass user begins slicing up all the monsters in his path with his whirlwind technique, and Stefan uses his blade to slice the heads off a giant snake monster he was fighting. However, even with its head severed, the snake keeps trying to bite Stefan, but at the last second, Alicia is able to stop it by piercing its eye with her sword to finish it off. So far, the team has been doing pretty well, and now that all the weak monsters in the area have been dealt with, the team ventures deeper into the cave to track down the Beast Lord of the South. They eventually arrive at the center of the cave and come face to face with Clevitus of the Moonlight, and you know it's going to be bad when the monster has an aura farming entrance. Everyone can feel the intensity coming from the beast, but Stefan is confident that he and his team can overcome anything with the power of friendship. Never mind, friendship isn't going to save them here. After seeing Clevitus paint the wall with Stefan's blood, I'd be questioning whether being a hero is even worth it, but the tank seems to think he can do better, so he jumps into the air to attack it, but he's almost immediately beheaded mid-air. The others are finally starting to realize that they don't stand a chance in a direct battle, but it's too late for them to retreat or regroup because Clevitus has begun picking them off one by one with its tail. The others are confused because they can't figure out how Clevitus is getting to them so quickly, but Alicia realizes that the tail attacks are coming from their shadows, so she tells everyone to jump to create some distance from the shadow. Thanks to her quick thinking, she manages to parry the beast's attack and survive, but the others aren't so lucky. One of the surviving heroes jams his spear into the ground to summon an earth golem, but even the ground here is under the control of Clevitus, so the hero can't continue his golem and several tail spikes emerge from the ground and slice him up. The lance user tries to charge forward and overpower Clevitus, but while the dude is fighting for his life over here, Clevitus is casually wondering how things as weak as humans managed to get into his lair. He then finishes off the rest of the heroes, so the only one left alive is Alice, who has been flying around with her sword to avoid getting hit. She eventually manages to get close enough to Clevitus's face to land a good hit on him, but even her strongest attack barely leaves a scratch on Clevitus. Meanwhile, Clevitus is still deep in thought because he can't fathom the stupidity that led humans to attack his land when he hasn't had beef with them for over 1,000 years. But if they are going to keep bothering him like this, then he's going to need to come up with a more permanent solution. But first he has to deal with Alice, so he slashes her limbs off and sends her falling to her doom. A little while later, Clevitus crash lands in the human kingdom, and he's here with vengeance on his mind. He was perfectly fine leaving the human kingdom alone as long as they had minded their business, but they just had to go trying to conquer his land. From what the heroes said before the fight, they were sent to fight by the king of Haydn, so he's going to need to have a word with him about this. The kingdom's archers are alerted to the threat, so they show up and take aim at Clevitus. But unsurprisingly, those arrows do absolutely no damage. But despite the clear power difference, they continue attacking like it's going to do something. Clevitus is just here for the king, so he was initially going to ignore all the other humans, but since they are attacking him now, he slaughters them all on his way to the castle. The castle guards begin prepping the rest of their defenses and aim their catapults at Clevitus, but their weapons still have no effect on him, so Clevitus rips through the castle walls with ease. Inside the castle, one of the guards goes to warn the king of Clevitus's attack, but the king already heard all the crashing sounds, so he pretty much knows what happened. The heroes he sent must have failed to kill Clevitus because the weapons of Haydn weren't strong enough yet. He realizes that Clevitus is most likely here for him, so there would be no point in fleeing now because Clevitus would just hunt him down. However, even if he is going to end up dying, the king wants to seal off the forge so the flames of Haydn are never extinguished. Meanwhile, Clevitus is outside, and he is wondering why the humans here are so pitiful compared to the heroes that attacked him. At first he thought it might have been some kind of special training, but after the castle's guards fire Haydn metal ballistas at him, he realizes that their strength was in their weapons. Thinking back, even though it didn't do much damage, the sword Alicia used to slash his horn actually left a mark which shouldn't have been possible. Even if humans are nothing more than insects to him, an insect with a stinger can still be dangerous, so Clevitus plans to get to the bottom of this. At the same time, down in the depths of the castle, the king goes to check on the forge of Haydn, but suddenly the walls around him begin to shake, so he realizes Clevitus must be nearby and hurriedly seals the forge off. Moments later, Clevitus rips the roof off the castle, and as soon as he spots the king, he calls him out. The king tries to act unfazed and tells Clevitus that he has no right to speak to him like that. But Clevitus tells the king to watch his tone because if he wanted to, he could wipe out all the humans in an instant. And not just the people of Haydn either, he could go after the people of the neighboring kingdoms as well. He could have killed the king by now. But even if he did that, another king would eventually pop up and disturb Clevitus's land again. So he is giving the king of Haydn one chance to explain himself. He wants to know why he ordered those heroes to attack him. But instead of actually explaining the reason, the king practically spits in Clevitus's face, saying a beast like him could never understand human ambition. Clevitus has heard all he needs to hear, so he slices the king's head off and begins making plans to wipe all humans from the face of the earth. However, as he is walking out of the destroyed city, he comes across a baby crying after its mother had been crushed under some falling debris. Clevitus feels no sympathy for it whatsoever, so he decides to keep walking. But then the baby's mother calls out to him and asks Clevitus to save her baby. Clevitus is a bit stunned by the mother's bold request, so he reminds her that he was the one who brought ruin to this kingdom, and he has even decided to wipe out all humans, so why would he want to save a human child? The mother understands his point, but regardless of what the adults may have done to deserve Clevitus's wrath, she insists that the baby has done nothing to deserve such a fate. Clevitus doesn't see the point in arguing about the baby's innocence since all humans are the same to him, but he's willing to play along, so he asks the mother if she can prove the baby's worth to him. The mother knows she won't be able to prove anything to Clevitus, especially since she's going to die soon, but she swears that if Clevitus agrees to save the baby, he will eventually discover its worth on his own. The mother dies shortly after and Clevitus walks off completely unfazed, but he does end up coming back for the baby, so the mother's speech must have gotten through to him. He still isn't entirely sure if it's a good idea to take this baby, but compared to his long lifespan, a human child's life is barely noticeable, so he is willing to look after it for the sake of curiosity. In the land of Ethia, there are 5 humanoid races, the first of which are the Duns, a kingdom of people with large numbers and great skill in architecture. The next are the Orgites, a kingdom of people who excel in hunting and medicine. The Slatans, aquatic people skilled in swimming and fishing. The Benti, barbaric people who are strong individually, but couldn't work together even if their lives depended on it. And finally, there's the kingdom of Haydn, or rather, there was the kingdom of Haydn because it's gone now. They were the oldest of the humanoid races and had great skill when it came to forging weapons, which is how the blades of Haydn were made. There is a lot more to the world than just Ethia, but beyond the continent's borders, it is surrounded by darkness on all sides. This darkness is where the dark beasts live and the 4 dark beast lords, one of which is Clevitus, so humans have never set foot outside Ethia. Back at Clevitus's cave, he brought the baby back with him, and after scaring all the beasts to make sure none of them eat him, he curls up next to the child to rest, but now he's not sure what to do with him. He can give him some of his energy to keep his strength up so he doesn't have to worry about dying anytime soon, but the baby is currently covered in poop. Clevitus did not sign up to deal with this, so he picks the baby up and drops him into a pit of spiders without a second thought. The baby immediately starts crying, and I probably would too if I was surrounded by spiders, but Clevitus assures him that he's safe. The spiders in that pit only eat poop, so he dropped him in there to get cleaned up, but that doesn't make it any less scary. Even after he pulls him back up, he won't stop crying, and Clevitus is starting to get sick of all the constant wailing. But as a dark beast lord, he can't go back on his decision, so he's going to have to see this through to the end. But to make sure the baby survives, he's going to need a human to look after it, so he walks over to the heroes he killed to see if any of them can be useful. Moments later, Alicia wakes up and finds herself staring at the sky, but she clearly remembers getting killed, so she wonders if this is the afterlife. However, once she sees Clevitus, she realizes she's still in his cave. She instinctively reaches for her sword, but Clevitus tells her he already threw all the weapons along with the bodies of her allies down into the ravine. However, she looked like she'd be useful, so he decided to revive her. Right now, Alicia is basically a walking corpse, and the only reason she can move is because of the dark energy that he imbued her with, but that's enough explaining for now, so he tells Alicia to make herself useful and give him some milk. It takes a moment for her to register what Clevitus just asked her to do, but he isn't joking, and this isn't a request either because he really needs that milk, so he uses his powers to force Alicia to comply. However, after several minutes of suckling, Clevitus finally realizes this isn't working. Alicia tells him it obviously wouldn't work because she's never had a baby before and she doesn't understand why someone like Clevitus would even want to keep a baby alive in the first place. Clevitus doesn't intend to explain his reasons to her, but since Alicia can't provide milk, he is going to need her to be useful in other ways. The baby won't die as long as Clevitus keeps giving it energy, but it will be perpetually hungry, so he asks Alicia if there's any other way to get milk. Alicia can't disobey Clevitus' command, so she tells him that you will need to hire a nursing mother to feed the baby, but to do that you would have to go to a human town, and with his current form he's guaranteed to cause a panic, so he decides to take a human form so he can blend in. He doesn't have much to go off, so he decides to take the form of the baby's mother and says he will be called Kren, while the baby's name will be Luna. Kren tells Alicia to lead the way to the nearest village, but before that they need to stop so Alicia can wash Luna's blanket, but while she's washing it, she realizes the blanket has the Haydn royal crest on it. Meanwhile, back in what's left of Haydn, the news of what happened has spread, so a scout was sent to inspect the damage. He can't believe that a single dark beast was able to cause all of this destruction, but this is exactly why he thought it would be too reckless to attack one of the beast lords. And the timing couldn't have been worse, because the day of the attack was the day the crown princess was supposed to flee the kingdom with her son. Back by the river, Alicia confronts Kren and asks if he knew that Luna was from the royal family when he took the baby. Kren has no idea what she's talking about, so Alicia points out that the cloth Luna was wrapped in had the royal emblem on it, and only members of the royal family can use it. Now that Kren thinks about it, the woman he got Luna from was crushed under the rubble of the castle, so it makes sense that Luna would be a member of the royal family. But that doesn't really change Kren's plans. Alicia asks what he means by rubble of the castle, so Kren bluntly tells her that he destroyed Haydn and killed the king last night. Alicia can't believe Haydn was really destroyed, but Kren reminds her that they were the ones who attacked him first. Kren doesn't think it's a big deal, but Alicia says it's a really big deal, because if Kren really wiped out Haydn, then Luna must be the last member of the royal family, and that means tons of people are going to be coming after him. Kren asks why, so Alicia explains that only members of the Haydn royal family are able to use the special forging techniques used to make the Haydn weapons. But immediately after she says that, she realizes she gave away too much information. Kren hadn't given much thought to what he wants to do with Luna till now, but if he's really that important, then Kren wouldn't mind making him the new king of the humans. That way, Kren would be able to control everything from behind the scenes and crush the humans once and for all if they step too far out of line. But right now, they still need to get some milk for Luna, so he tells Alicia to get moving. Alicia still doesn't know why Kren is so attached to Luna, but she is certain that if anything were to happen to him, he would probably kill every last human on the continent, so Alicia needs to protect him at all costs. This was the end of episode 1. Subscribe to not miss the next part.